We are going to be making a yummy rice noodle and tofu bowl today. This is what you're going to need right away. So I'm using extra firm tofu. You can kind of use whatever brand you like, but this is the one they had at the store. So I'm taking it, I'm going to cut it along the edge here. So I'm trying not to actually cut the tofu. This is harder with soft tofu. That's one reason I'm using the firm tofu. Be careful, there'll be water everywhere. And I'm going to slide my knife underneath and get the other side so that I've kind of got that nice edge. So I have my blade kind of flat. So I'm going to go ahead and peel it off. I'm going to hold it down because I'm going to drain out the water. So here I am draining out the water, kind of holding it nice and in so it doesn't fall into my sink. So, alrighty. Now I'm going to peel it out and I'm going to take the whole thing kind of by keeping it nice and flat. I'm going to peel it back, try to keep it nice and flat as I take the whole thing out. And there might still be a little bit of water, so just be a little careful. And I'm going to keep it nice and flat and whole, and I'm going to take it and I'm going to put it onto a plate. I'm going to take another plate and place it gently on top, kind of down, just so that you have plenty of room. And then I'm going to put a couple of soup cans or whatever kind of cans you want to help kind of the water drain out. And then I'm just going to kind of set a timer for about 20 minutes. And I'm going to go ahead and pull out a bunch of spices. So today I'm not going to be using all of these, but these are some of my favorite ones. So I'm going to go ahead and remove it. The timer has gone off. You can see it's a little darker outside. And I'm going to pour out any remaining water. So my tofu is nice and pressed. I'm going to take it and I'm going to slice it into fairly thick pieces because I'm going to be cooking it. And so I like it to have a little bit of a soft inside and the kind of crispy outside. To help with the crispiness, I'm going to use some mustard and sriracha and stuff like that on the outside to kind of give it a little bit of a coat. You can also use rice flour, whatever is good for you. This is about the thickness I like. But it's kind of up to you. The thicker you are, the longer it does take to kind of heat all the way through. But I like mine warm and kind of soft in the middle and a little bit crunchy on the outside. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to grab a little bit of oil. I'm going to use this kind of oil. It's an avocado oil. I like it a lot. It kind of seems to heat up a little bit at a little bit of a lower temperature. And so then I'm going to take mustard because I am a total mustard fiend. But I also like the way that the mustard kind of like coats the outside and puts like a nice little crisp layer. So I'm going to kind of pop that on. And then I'm going to get some sriracha. And I just like, because I like to have a little bit of heat, but not a lot of heat. And you can kind of use whatever is appropriate for you. You know, you can do all kinds of different flavors. If you were going for more of like a country western flavor, you could actually use ketchup and then like some like liquid smoke or something like that. But kind of your hands will get a little gross. But I like to rinse them off every once in a while. Just because I'm going to be handling now a little bit more dry stuff. So I'm using some nice different kind of salts. But I know everybody kind of has their own taste, so you kind of season it as you like it. I'm also using more mustard because I am a mustard fiend because it is delicious. Now I'm just going to shake mine on, but be careful, it comes out pretty fast. So I think I'm actually going to just do a little pinch here. So there it is. So you can see I'm just going to put a little layer. Now this can be pretty hot depending on your spice levels. You can also add like peppers. You could add diced garlic. I don't tend to marinate in garlic because I like to cook it in the pan, but it's kind of up to you. So I've kind of got a couple of spices here. Now, I like to use a little bit more of a kind of interesting use. If I'm going to go a little bit more Asian, I like this one, but I'm going to use this lime one today because I'm kind of going for this. You can also use a sesame oil instead of the other oil. So it just depends kind of what flavors you go. You can always add more spice, whatever you kind of feel like. This is also a really lovely one. I'm clearly very excited about my spices today, but I'm just going to add this one today because this has a lot of lime in it, and I'm kind of going for kind of a very fresh, almost Thai flavor, and I like this one with the sriracha and the mustard. So now it's the fun part. Now you get to very gently kind of wiggle it all together, and you're going to get that nice, beautiful, kind of like lovely coating on it. And so I really want to make sure I get that all the way around, kind of keeping that nice. So you want it kind of even because you want it to kind of have a fair amount of spice on each side. Also, you're going to be turning this so that the outside layer kind of will crisp up. You can also add flour at this point if you really wanted a really nice, almost breaded kind of crispy edge. But you can use rice flour. You could use a contemporary kind of like gluten-free flour. You could use a wheat flour, whatever is right for you. I really like to use sometimes a little bit of rice flour because it gives it that nice little edge. But I'm not going to use it today because I'm going to be using some lovely I'm going to be using some rice noodles instead. for kind of another nice little base on it. So I'm going to go ahead and get it all massaged in there. If you have any nicks or cuts in your fingers, I definitely recommend wearing gloves, just because of obviously you don't want to kind of get that little bit of citrus in there. So that can always be a little bit uncomfortable. So you can see that I've got everything nice and coated. I'm just going to stick this one kind of, this is the last one, it kind of always gets not as much, so I kind of stick it in the middle again so it can get kind of there for its neighbor, and I'm going to leave it just a little bit marinating for a little while. Now, I've put oil in a pan, I've heated it up, and I've kind of let it marinate for about 20 minutes, and I'm going to add some freshly diced garlic, which is just so delightful. And I'm kind of holding onto the rest of the raw garlic. And it'll come to a nice gentle sizzle, and I have now put the rice noodles on as well. I'm kind of heating that water up for the rice noodles, because rice noodles can cook really quickly. So I'm going to add the tofu, and it has a little bit of a sizzle when it's going into the pan, which is always such a nice thing. And it's so aromatic. Sometimes if I add turmeric or raw garlic to it, and or like ginger, it'll fill the whole house with kind of a lovely smell. So I've sped this up, but I'm now going to add some veggies for my bowl. I'm using purple cabbage, which I just like, but I know that's not everyone's dish. If you are going to do purple cabbage, you can always soak it in like lime and salt just to give it a little bit more flavor. And I'm going to add cucumber to mine. So sorry, don't watch my knife cutting technique. It's not the most beautiful, but I really like to have a lot of fresh, raw kind of vegetables. You can add a little bit of other things to it if you'd like. You can add, if you have sprouts, it's really good, but I'm just kind of using what I have left over in the house as sort of like kind of a nice, like almost salad tofu leftover bowl. I always find baby carrots really hard to cut, but they're always a bit awkward. But just so go ahead and kind of slice them up in kind of whatever pieces you like. I like to cut them this way because I'm going to try to eat this with chopsticks, and so having a little bit bigger slices for me is a little bit easier. So that's one reason why I'm kind of slicing them up this way. It's just kind of a nice bright color. I'm just eating them raw, just spoiling my dinner. Now I'm going to kind of check my tofu and flip it over. So it should be kind of nice and brown, and it will be a little bit softer at this point. So it'll be, and should start to have kind of a crispy edge. So you'll have that kind of nice little edge. Now you could do this like the tofu on top of a sandwich. You could do whatever you want, but I'm doing it with these noodles. So I'm going to check the noodles and see if they're ready. What am I going to do with that? Okay, there it is. And you kind of just check it, and it's nice and good. So I'm going to pour it out into like a strainer. Now I'm going to run some cool water over it and just like let it kind of have a little bit of a rest. Now that's all done. And I've kind of let my noodles cool, and it's time to kind of plate up the bowls. So I'm taking my noodles out, and I'm going to add a little bit of oil to them, which will kind of keep them from separating. And I'm going to add some of the raw garlic as well, just because I really like that. And so I'm also going to add a little bit of sesame seeds. So I just like the kind of sesame seed. You can always toast them, but I'm being lazy and not doing it. So my tofu should look gorgeous by now. See how it has that nice crisp outside, and then now the inside should be nice and soft. So I like it because like the mustard kind of like, and the sriracha kind of like bind all of the spices to it. So I have all my veg ready. I've got some green onions, some lettuce. I've got my sesame seeds. I've got my 2 bowls set up. So I feel pretty ready to plate up. So I'm going to kind of design my bowls. You can kind of throw everything in, but I'm trying to do mine in a bit of a fancy way so it looks better for the video. But usually I just kind of chuck everything in. And then I've got some nice green onion I'm going to put on top, which I just think is so delightful. So I'm going to add some tofu. You can do 2, you can do 3, you can do whatever feels good to you. But they should be nice and warm, kind of going on top of the cool salad, and the noodles are still a little bit warm. I'm going to add some lime on top because I love that brightness of lime. You can also add some tamari or soy sauce, kind of whatever feels right for you. And so I'm going to do, but I like the lime, and I also like a little bit more sesame seeds for a little bit of pizzazz. And that's pretty much it. I hope you enjoy your rice noodle tofu bowl.